Remember when we declared this driver's first name variable earlier? Did you notice how I used some capital letters in the name here? This is called camel case because it resembles the humps of a camelback. However, the first letter here seemed to be a lowercase letter. This is called the lower camel case. Another variation is called the upper camel case. They're both commonly used in Java, but in different places. For now, however, just remember that you should always follow the lower camel case when you're creating a new variable name, like this one here. You can always write variable names the way you want, as long as you follow some basic rules, which we will go through in a second. But it's very common to use camel cases when we create variable names that have more than just one single word. Because as we'll see, we can't have spaces between the words in a variable name. This camel case makes it a lot easier to read than, say, having them all lowercase letters like that. So what are those rules that we need to follow when creating variable names? Variable names are totally up to you. You should always try to use full words that describe what this variable is used for, like speed or price. Try to avoid using cryptic abbreviations like SP for stock price. Instead, you should use the camel case format and name your variable stock price like that. But always keep in mind those rules. First one is that variable names are case sensitive. Just like any instruction in Java, variable names are also case sensitive. Which means if we try to use this variable stock price here in a statement like this, but with a small lowercase p instead of this uppercase p here, then Java won't understand what this variable is because it would assume this is a different variable and it won't find it in our program. So you have to follow the same case of the variables that you've declared it earlier. This is why Java would not understand this statement. Second rule is that you have to start your variable names with a letter, like an alphabetical letter. Even though you can have numbers and symbols within your variable name, the first letter always has to be an alphabetical letter. So a variable like this, which starts with the digit 2, is wrong and Java won't accept it. You can, however, start a variable with a $sign or underscore sign. Only those two are acceptable, but it's not recommended to do so anyway. The final rule is that you cannot have white spaces in your variable name. It has to be one single word. Something like this, string stock price, for example, with a space between stock and price, does not make sense, and Java won't accept that either. So, as long as you follow these basic 3 rules, and you keep in mind that your variable names explain what the variable is used for, then your program would make a lot more sense when someone else is reading it. Another thing you can do while declaring a variable is initialize it in the same statement. Something like this, where we have the string player variable being declared here, I can actually assign that to a value straight away. So in this one statement, I'm declaring the variable player, and I'm also initializing it to the string jack. Same goes for integers, where I can declare an integer price and initialize it to 0, or another integer speed, initialize it to 100, and so on. So remember that if you want to compact your code to lessen the number of lines in your program, you can always initialize the variable while declaring it. This also guarantees that you would never use a variable without having it initialized, which is a really important thing to think about in your programs.